Warriors respond without Steph against the Milwaukee Bucks last night. Draymond with a hell of a performance containing Giannis. Himmy showing up. Where do we start? Let's start with Draymond in this Defensive Player of the Year talk. I had brought it up a few weeks ago. I was like, hey, man, the way he's been activated since this trade and with Wemby being ineligible, why not? You throw his name in the hat. I think Evan Mobley is his biggest competition. And then you consider team success, the Cavs, the best record in the NBA. And the way I see it is Evan Mobley, look, if you want to look at the stats and maybe go night to night in the league through this entire season, you probably have a better case for Evan Mobley. But when it matters in a star matchup, I don't think there's anyone else you take over Draymond defensively. It's a lot like the quarterback conversations you see each year where it's like Lamar's stats are off the charts and all that, right? But when push comes to shove, big game, you're not taking him over Patty Mahomes, right? And that's the way I view Draymond at this stage in his career, at this age. It may not be night to night, but in the big spots, there's still no one better in the league defensively. And you saw it last night against Giannis. And take nothing away from the performance from Draymond, but I think for Giannis at this stage in his career, you don't get that 100 miles per hour max effort every game from Giannis. He paces himself more throughout the regular season, game to game, as he should. He should. I'm not holding it against him, but Draymond, it's funny because you say, oh, you want this big athlete to match up with Giannis ideally, and you definitely need some size in the paint, and we'll get to post here in a minute, but it's more about angles and physicality with Giannis. You're not going to match his athleticism and his speed up and down the court. It's angles, and it's you got to use your mind. You can't just match him with athleticism. And Draymond, all the tricks in the book, the physicality, it certainly helped. I think that this was a redeem game, right? That the Bucks caught us in a bad spot in a way because of how embarrassing that Nuggets game was. But, Giannis, look, man, this Bucks team, Giannis still doesn't have a go-to move, right? And you heard them talk about how their offensive rating plummets in clutch time. It's because of Giannis. When the game slows down in the half court, to me, what I would like to see is him catch it with his back to the basket, big step to that left shoulder and that little bunny. But he still wants to face up. And it's like it's like the curse of variety for him. He just wants to do it. He gets out of control. And I guess that's what Dame is there for. But they also did a great job on Dame, whether it was GP2, Moody, containing him. And, just like what happened to us against Denver, was there a little bit of that with Milwaukee with no Steph? Because usually you get a more inspired Damian Lillard and even a more inspired Giannis. Not trying to take away from our boys' performance, but the Bucks were ice cold in that first half. And then Jimmy Butler. Look, he said, when it's my time to score, you'll know it. And then he backed Steph. We got to get Steph's back. And right away out of the gate, he was more aggressive. And you're starting to see him get his legs with the little push shot and some of the mid-range game. And there's so much. I'm so excited to study his game as someone who still works on mine and trains and helps people out. The nuance of his fundamentals is super special. And I put some of that in today's breakdown, his footwork and what he does. Do y'all think he's a better passer or the best passer on the team? He might be. He might be because he's more dynamic than Steph or Draymond. You know what I'm saying? Like there was that big corner three from Quentin last night in the fourth where he drives baseline, he shows it high, and then it's like this bounce pass around the guy along the baseline. It's, I love using these football analogies, but it's like he's like a quarterback who can change. He has more arm angles to throw the passes than Steph, whereas he's limited with his size. And then Draymond's probably too aggressive passing the ball. And so Jimmy, the distributor, and then the scoring. He only had 24 points. It felt like 40, right? It felt like it was the loudest 24 points you could imagine. And with Steph, like, look, we know how Steph's the most nuclear scorer of this generation, maybe ever, if you want to talk about the three ball and all that, right? And so we know about those explosions. But like a lot of the time, it's like halfway through a third quarter in the game, and you're like, damn, Steph has 25? Right? Because it comes so easy to him. You're like, oh yeah, he's got like 4 threes, like that. But with Jimmy, it felt like 40 in those 24 points and getting to the line, the 3-point, the fouls when he did it, was so crazy. I do think what helps him getting the foul calls is, if you notice, he takes bumps like a wrestler. And that thud on the ground, I think, helps sells the call. So he definitely earns those. They're not as cheap as some of these other foul merchants, albeit he still is one, right? And so yeah, just a loud 24 from Jimmy, controlling things down. And it seems to always be that end of third, start of the fourth, where we steady the ship, and that's where you could circle like the game was won right there. Before we talk about the youngsters, underdog. Click the link in the description, use the code Alchemy. You get a 50% bonus on your first deposit up to 1,000 credits. It's NBA season, it's basketball season right now. So they're running all sorts of bonuses and picks and specials each night. It's a great way to support the channel. Keep an eye out for me tweeting my picks, or just even in the community posts. Underdog, support the channel. Now, do we want to talk Kuminga, post, pods? Let's give Pods his shine. He returns, and you know what it shows me? How long was he out? He wasn't that long, right? Like a week, 10 days, maybe in total, or whatever it was. He used that time, he watched, and he got better, because you can see he was recognizing where to take his shots. That second three that he took, when teams are switching or there's some sort of screen exchange, usually there's a small window. The window can be big with a bad defense, but the Bucks are a decent defense. A small window for the ball handler to sneak up a shot. And you could see him waiting on a Kuzma, whoever it was, switch, and he snuck one up. And then you see him, remember that hook shot that he was trying to get off, right? And people are like, yeah, you got to do away with that. To me, it's the angle of it. You don't want to come across the paint and shoot like a sky hook like Kareem. But he gets downhill and he has the angle. He changes the arm angle and gets the hook off, right? And then, of course, the big threes down the stretch, toe tap, rhythm. His shot looks as smooth as it ever has. There was just a smoothness, a calmness to his release last night. And to me, it looked like someone who had sat, watched, and learned from sitting. You can get better sitting if your mind is engaged. And that's what I saw from Pods. Tripods, baby. Now, Kuminga, obviously a different story. He's struggling. And the timing in both his hands and his feet. Have you noticed he hasn't been catching the ball clean? And that's taking away his opportunity in his rhythm. And then maybe more importantly, he's playing off 1 foot an awful lot. And I'm not saying he shouldn't. You want to grow your game at 22 years old, and there's a time and a place for it, especially with his speed in the open court, where playing off 1 foot is going to benefit him. But in the half court in particular, we see he's trying to do the Jimmy thing. If he wants to do the Jimmy thing and draw these fouls and play that way, he's got to play at a slower pace. He's got to slow down, and he's got to play off 2 feet a lot more. And my theory would be, because he used to only play off 2 feet almost, right? Exclusively, is during the rehab process of an ankle, he probably did a lot of one-footed things, like balancing and doing all that type of stuff. And so I think he's got to reprogram, his muscle memory and his timing. He's got to get his hands sharper, his hands on time, and then his feet to where he's getting back to playing that big power 2-foot game, if that's how he wants to play. But overall, just slow down. He's pressing clearly. He's clearly pressing. You're seeing the frustration boil over. But I'll say this as a word of caution to the fan base, because, and I'm obviously not speaking to everyone, but just generally speaking, people were ready to write off Pods. Pods. Well, you know what? When he hit that second three, you know what GIF I was looking for? The Brock Lesnar. Can you see me now? Can you see me now? But what I'm saying is pump the brakes on saying, oh, Kuminga's awful, and there's various reasons why he's struggling. It sucks that it's at this point in the year, and I think that's what magnifies it, because we're winning and how important these games are, that he's struggling right now. But you got to be a little patient with Kuminga, and it also goes back to fans right now. This is what it is. People would rather be right than win. And it's like, it feels like people are rooting against Kuminga because of their stance on him, right? If you're a Warriors fan, you want Kuminga to be good. So let's give him a little time to figure it out. And if the beautiful thing about it is, yes, it would take us to another level, but we also have the depth where if it's not working, get him out of there, right? We know Curry ain't got no problem getting him out of there, right? So let's just wait on Kuminga. But yeah, he's clearly pressing. He's got to slow down, and I think he's just got to get his muscle memory, his timing back to be more effective. And the other little bit of bail I'll shoot him is you're looking at New York, Milwaukee, right? These big physical front lines where he can't play the bully ball that he wants to. And then last but not least, Quentin Post. I left yesterday's video asking, like, hey, can he stay in a game with this big physical front line and still contribute? And I think he answered the question. I think you have to have reasonable expectations for Quentin. Yes, he's going to get picked on. And yes, as a slower footed center, like there's going to be fouls and there's going to be plays where you're like, ooh, right? But as long as there's a give and take, as long as the juice is worth the squeeze, and I thought the juice was worth the squeeze last night. His hair trigger three, that he doesn't just have a strap, that boy got a switch on it, right? It's just, he just lets it off. And the stark difference between he and Lopez shooting the three, it's dramatic to defensive rotations. I've said it before, a lot of these centers, yeah, they'll take it, but they got to load up, check the weather, seam up on the ball. This dude's shooting it out of pocket. He's just, it's as quick as a three ball as I've seen in a man that size. Like tell me one that's quicker, right? And so you saw him make that. And then I also thought his presence just in the paint with Giannis helped behind Draymond. Yeah, he's trying to close out to Kuzma. You're asking him to stay in front of Dame and pick and rolls. Like, no big center is going to look good doing that. And that's what you have to keep in mind. But all in all, I thought he contributed, and I thought it was a really good sign against a big physical front line as he continues to grow. You see how hard Draymond gets on him, right? Draymond is on him, and I think that's a great sign because you don't see him bark at Trace like that. God, he would have never barked at Wiseman like that, right? Because you have to handle teammates individually. Do they have the ego? Do they have the confidence to take that type of barking on TV in a live game, right? And he got on Quentin about a turnover, and then the next play down, Quentin hits one of the bigger threes of the game. So he can take it. That's a good sign. They're communicating. He's got to understand that Draymond, as the rover, a lot of the time wants to be the rim protector. And QP's instinct as a 7-footer is to always get back to the rim. And he's going to have to be more dynamic. Like, no, he may send you out to the three-point line. Draymond, especially now that he's hunting that award, is going to be even more aggressive that way. But yeah, man, really good win, really good bounce back. Shout out GP2, the masked man. Agent Zorro continues to hit clutch shot after clutch shot. They got Toronto. I say you rest Steph one more. Give him the full 4 days off. Let him charge the battery, especially the way Pods looked in his return. And then you head east with some of these matchups who on paper, yeah, you say, okay, these are games you should win, but we know they got to play the games. They got to take it one game at a time. You got the Clippers hunting us down, Minnesota on our heels. It's going to be a really crazy finish to the season to stay out of that play-in. As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.